Welcome to BalletWise. My name is Michael Wise, its host and its creator. Now, we received a comment asking us to talk about my experience with ADHD. Was it a benefit or a negative in my career as a ballet dancer? Now, this is going to be my personal story, and understand that ADHD affects people differently. We're not all the same. I'm not a medical professional, so please be aware that this is my journey, and this is only what I believe in and what I've dealt with. Now, I was diagnosed with ADHD at a very young age. Now, fortunate enough, my mother was getting her master's degree in psychology, and the study of ADHD was at its infancy. And you have to understand, we're talking early 70s when this was coming about. They understood that it existed, but they didn't understand what it was, how to deal with it. And around the time that it was ready for me to start going to kindergarten and to school, they started noticing that I was flipping my letters, my numbers. The only areas where I seemed to overtly excel was in speech, fine motor skills, and gross motor skills. There are a disproportionate number of individuals that get into sports because of ADHD, just as there are a disproportionate number of people that get into ballet with ADHD. Because I'm a personal believer in where we have one weakness, we have an opposing strength. So because my brain worked differently and I struggled in certain areas in the academic world, I excelled in the physical areas because that's how my body balanced itself out. Now, once again, that's my own personal belief, because I feel like sometimes we need to rationalize why our bodies work the way they do, because the science of neurology in itself is like a frontier. They're still trying to figure this stuff out. Dance for me was my saving grace. And the reason behind why ADHD for me was actually a benefit when I started taking ballet, but it also helped me work on my weaknesses. And let me clarify that, because I've always been a very energetic, a very passionate person. I physically understand the world through touch, through physicality, through movement. And once I started taking ballet, it gave me a way of learning, of understanding the world around me, because I could feel it, I could move it, I could touch it. It wasn't just I was told what to do, but I could experience what they were asking. And I learned like that. But it also made me feel like I was normal, like I was in the right place. There are a lot of people that don't have those experiences, but I did. And it helped work on my negatives because I had trouble picking up combinations. But for me, right and left were the same thing. So going different directions wasn't an issue. I didn't have to think to go one direction or another. I just went one direction or another instantly. So that worked as a benefit, even though I didn't have a concept of one side or the other. Where I really, really, really excelled in ballet was the fact that I had a hyperactivity disorder. So I am spazzing out all the time. Now, some people might look at that as a negative. Now, complete opposite. You couldn't tire me out. I could do an entire class at 120% and I still could keep going. Most people would be exhausted to work at the level I worked at, but I wasn't. I just kept going. My mother flat out said the first time she ever actually saw me sleep properly was after I started taking ballet, because I was able to get all of that energy out. because all that energy was in me. And if it didn't come out, it was going to manifest in some way or another, and usually not in a good way. Ballet is one of these things that it requires you to have a strong connection with your imagination, a desire to push our bodies to their limits. It rewards us for taking risks. It allows us to learn to control the chaos that's in us. An ADHD brain in general is very chaotic. We have to learn logic and common sense because they don't come to us naturally. But the ballet studio allowed me to learn when I needed to control it and when I could let it go. Now, one quality that all ADHD people have, which is called hyperfocus. And in ballet class, I could hyperfocus instantly because I wanted this. It was my safe place. I could feel everything as intensely as I wanted to. I could express myself physically because that was what made sense to my body. I had endless amounts of energy that I could just burn and burn and burn and burn. And it wasn't always caught up inside of me. I was constantly being rewarded for taking risks, where in regular life, I would always get yelled at for it. It developed into a place where even though I had trouble picking up combinations, I now had a reason and a want to fix that. I will be honest, when it comes to me picking up choreography, I'm never going to be the straight A student in the class. But I can get myself to a B level, and it's something I learned never to be afraid of. Being ADHD, we make mistakes. We always make mistakes. And quite often, we can be treated as if the mistake is the problem, or we can be treated as if we are the mistake and we're making the problems. But in ballet, I learned that I wasn't the problem. It was just I made an incorrect movement. So I learned not to be afraid of making mistakes. I learned to understand that I'm going to make the mistake and it's okay. So then I could work on fixing the mistake. Ballet has a disproportionate number of dancers in it that have ADHD tendencies, have hyperactivity disorders, and mainly because, well, our brains are developed in a way where the arts make sense to us. For many of us, we have to move. For many of us, we are so passionate, have so much emotion, that the stage is the only place where we can expend it all. The negatives are the fact that sometimes it's hard for us to pick up the choreography. The negatives are sometimes we can be a little bit overly self-judgmental because we see other people doing things that we want, but we don't understand how to get there. I learned early on to take my emotions and apply them to the movement, use that energy. I talk about this sometimes about learning to use your emotions in a ballet class. I learned to do it because it was a necessity. If I got really, really angry, I would not be the right kind of person. So what did I do? I used that in those ballet classes. And before you know it, I wasn't angry anymore. If I was feeling sad, I could use it. It gave me an outlet because if I showed that in regular life, it'd be too much. Everyone would be saying you're being overly melodramatic. And it wasn't a safe place for me to explore my emotions. It wasn't a safe place for me to be who I was. But the ballet studio was. It was my safe place. My mother said the first time she saw me on stage that I looked more at home on stage than I do in real life. Because the stage for many dancer or actor or singer who has ADHD, the stage is the world where anything is possible. And there is no fear. When I would stand at the bar and when I would do certain combinations, my challenge was to see if I could push my body to its limit. I put 3 times the amount of energy into every movement than probably should have been done. I had arguments with teachers at times where they just were trying to get me to calm down. And I'm like, but if I do that, I won't even have to work. I don't even have to try. And they're like, that's the reason why we don't want you to use all that energy. And to me, I couldn't understand that. My focus from the age of 8.5 until my career ended was all about the challenge, the hunt for perfection, realizing that perfection would never be obtained. But the difference is I looked at that as, well, they didn't, but maybe I could. So I didn't see the reasons why I couldn't excel. I only saw the reasons why, if I was willing to do the work, I could get anything I wanted. So many kids today who show tendencies to have ADHD and learning disabilities or hyperactivity disorders, or all of them together, because we don't fit into the box. And we all understand that analogy. You know, you're in the box, think outside of the box. Well, the reality of an ADHD kid or adult, we don't even know where the box is. There's an ADHD joke of basically saying, think outside of the box. And the first thing an ADHD person says, what, there was a box? Did I lose the box? What's the box? Can you help me find my box? I don't know where the box is. Because we don't have a box around us. It doesn't exist. We are a chaotic mind where we learn to train and hone it. So now we can see all options. And over time, Ballet taught me how I could obtain each of them. I don't want you to think that it is not a crippling disability for so many people, because I know it is. But for me, it was a gift, because I grew up in the right family. I discovered my passion at a very young age. I had great teachers and mentors that I was never taught to fear it. I was taught to learn how to use it. It's the reason why I can stand up here and talk to all of you. I don't have any fear. I don't have any discomfort. The reality is, this is normal. Because for me, performing is just giving the world what I have to offer. But you can't be like this in regular life. They're going to look at you and go, my God, that's a little too much. And to be quite honest, a lot of people still say that about me. But I wouldn't change a thing. I've said this before and I'll say this again. If I could take a pill right now and my ADHD would be gone, I wouldn't take the pill. Because my diagnosis and my problems that I've had and the talents that have come from it, they are the reason why I was the first American to ever be a principal dancer in the Soviet Union. Why? Because I couldn't see why I shouldn't be able to. Because I had passion and power and an understanding of movement that most people never would. So let's not look at it as always the disability if we can find where those talents reside. I know it's crippling for some, and they may never find their path. But for me, I was fortunate enough, being an ADHD kid, that I found my path that allowed me to use my talents, but also learn how to control the chaos in my head. Hopefully this has helped you. Hopefully, if you are someone that is suffering from ADHD, that you can find what you're passionate about, and hopefully it will help you find your path. And if you have ideas, or if you have something you would like to say, please leave us those comments below. If you think this would help someone else, share it with them. And remember, make sure you subscribe, because this channel is to help all dancers, no matter where you are in your life, no matter where you are in your career, and no matter where you are or what you're dealing with mentally. So all I can say is thank you for watching. And remember, keep dancing and be the best person you can